Looks like we're on, Joe. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm just getting go ahead. We're good to go.
You want to make me host again?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Garcia, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
Marvelous. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this virtual meeting of the Santa Fe Public School Board of Education on May 5th to order. And we'll do a roll call of the board members present. Vice President Price. Not yet. Secretary Garcia has said he may be a little bit late. Board member Dr. Carmen Gonzalez.
Here.
Board member Sarah Bozay.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Now we do the salute to the flag, the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the New Mexico flag. Oh, I should also say we have our student board members, Mercedes Torres and Harvey McGinnis, with us. Welcome to both of you. Okay, now we need somebody to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance in English and in Spanish. Ms. Torres, Mr. McGinnis, either of you want to do that? And then maybe the other would do the salute to the New Mexico flag?
I can, student board member McGinnis, I can certainly handle the pledge in English, but my Spanish is certainly less than to be desired. So Torres, is that something you could help with?
I can try, but I don't think I could do it very well.
All right, Mr. McGinnis, why don't you take the pledge in English and then we'll see if there's somebody else to do it in Spanish. And Ms. Torres, you can take the salute to the New Mexico flag in English and we'll see if there's somebody else to do it in Spanish.
Madam President, I'll do the Spanish.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Garcia. I mean, I can, but I don't know that my Spanish is any better than anybody else's. Okay, Mr. McGinnis, please.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios indivisible con libertad y justicia para todos.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el simbología de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas.
Excellent.
Thank you all very much. And the acknowledgement of tribal land. Board member Bozay or Dr. Gonzalez, would either of you like to lead us in that?
I
I'll
would
lead.
have it. Okay, go ahead.
We acknowledge the original people of the land, the Tesuque Pueblo people and other tribal nations, and ask them to walk with us today as we share and learn together.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez. Okay, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes? And if not, could I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda. This is Carmen.
This is Sarah. I'll second that.
Okay, and we will take a roll call vote for the approval of the agenda. Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Board Member Bozay,
Yes.
and has Vice President Price joined us? Dr. Garcia, have you heard anything from her? Do you know if we're expecting her this evening?
Madam President, I have not heard.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and the president votes yes, so we do have the agenda approved. Thank you very much. Moving on, we now have the introduction of the interpreter, Dr. Gonzalez, or Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This evening, Dr. James Lujan will be our interpreter, and the number is on the screen, but for those of you that just may be listening, 7-701-802-5152. El número de acceso es 4277-932. Otra vez, 701-802-5152. Y el password o el número de acceso es 4277932. Also, to participate in public forum, please email your comments. Well, it was by 5:30, so I'm sorry, I won't read that. I'll stop myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Okay, moving on to the union update. NEA President Grace Mayer is with us. Ms. Mayer, can you unmute yourself and you have the floor?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, I have a short update. It's really just a celebration of our teachers and our staff. It's happy Teacher Appreciation Week to everybody. I want to thank everybody for all the hard work they've done the last few weeks to get us through this transition. It's been really kind of challenging and uplifting in some areas. There's been a lot of, bumps in the road, but they're all troopers, and we're on our way to sort of the culmination of people's good efforts. So I want to applaud all our teachers, and when I say teachers, I include all our employees, our cafeteria workers, our ESPs, our secretaries, our bus drivers and mechanics, all of our nurses and our social workers, our counselors, and I'm even going to give a shout out to our principals, because our principals have also stepped up and really embraced these changes, and most of them have come from the teaching ranks, so we appreciate them as well. So for all our teachers and our staff in Santa Fe Public Schools, we appreciate you. Your union appreciates you. And NEA Santa Fe, NEA New Mexico, and NEA National also appreciate you. So try to do something for yourself this week and celebrate your profession. And I think I know that you guys have sort of supported efforts to appreciate teachers all week. So I want to thank you for doing that as well. And that's my update.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. And certainly a good message of appreciation right now. And I like to try to do something for yourself, because it's sort of cumulative, and it's already been a long haul, and we have a little ways to go, at least this year. Thank you, Ms. Mayer. Much appreciate it. Public forum. Dr. Garcia, David Carl, do we have anybody signed up or any comments emailed to public forum?
Board President Noble, Superintendent Garcia, board members, we have no comments emailed to the public forum.
Okay, thank you very much. Student board member announcements and follow-up. Our members of the class of 2020, and I know we're going to hear more from you later, and we appreciate all that you've been doing. Ms. Torres, do you want to go first? Hi.
So I don't have a very long list of announcements, but the biggest one that I have was just the announcement of the grab and go certificate for graduation graduates, and that is about it for today.
Okay, Mr. McGinnis, announcements from you?
Santa Fe High School has been winding down with a lot of the activities. Even though the official end for seniors is June 19th at this point, most of our exams across all grade levels are beginning on May 11th, as well as AP exams. So most classes have wound down at this point, and we are now looking into the very end of the school year.
Okay. Thank you very much. Board announcements and follow-up. Dr. Gonzalez, Ms. Bose, anything to announce?
Not me. This is Carmen.
This is Sarah. I don't think I have anything to announce, but I did want to say how wonderful it's been to see the videos from the various schools. I know we've all been posting them on Facebook, but it's just, it's been a real highlight and very sweet and uplifting to see the messages from the teachers. And I've really enjoyed that. So let's keep sharing all that goodness, because I know we miss our in-person communities, but it's just a reminder that we're all still together in a different way.
Thank you. And yeah, Ms. Mayer covered it, but of course it is Teacher Appreciation Week, Staff Appreciation Week. So I hope that families, parents, everybody out there is sending love to the hardworking folks in our schools. Okay, superintendent announcements and follow-up. Dr. Garcia. You're muted, it looks like.
I know if I don't mute, then we get a lot of feedback, so I forget to toggle back and forth. Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, student board members, first of all, I want to say congratulations to our 2 student board members. Very happy for you and proud of you, and I hope I get to see you in person and say goodbye. It's always sort of a sad time, and to say goodbye to our board members, and wish I could give you a big hug. So a big virtual hug, and know how proud we are of both of you. I'm looking forward to your presentation in a little bit. And, you know, I hope we'll get to see each other again soon. I want to say to parents and families, we've got, I think, 11 or 12 days left of school, barring the time for the additional time for seniors that the state has allocated this year. I just want parents and families to know that even educators are having a rough time right now. May is a tough time in schools, even though it's a lot of fun and a lot of festivities. Nerves are frayed, kids have senioritis, everybody's ready for school to be over. And I can't imagine doing this at home where, you know, your normal activities, can't go to soccer, can't go here, can't go do Little League, and pretty much you're confined to your walks and trips to the park and trying to make sense of these last days of school. And so I just ask everybody to be gentle with themselves, take a deep breath. And I think we've learned a lot from this experience. As I've said from the very beginning, we're not set up to be a distance learning educational system. We had to put up a system in 3 weeks. And I'm sure you'll hear from the presentations, lots of bumps on the road. But we've learned a lot from it and we'll continue to learn from it. But parents, my hat's off to you. Families, I know it's not been easy. To our educators who have children at home and are trying to teach and help their children, it's been tough. And I just wanted to thank everybody for their patience, their good humor through all of this, and the creativity that I've seen both from teachers and students and other staff members and families. Board member Bose alluded to that. It's just really been phenomenal and heartwarming. Hasn't been perfect, not in the least, but the creativity and the heart that our faculty and staff have, I'm very impressed in our ability to get food out to people. I'm just proud of being a part of the Santa Fe Public Schools, imperfect as we are. Happy Teachers Appreciation Week. I sent out a message to all teachers and to all who support them and reflected on my own teachers. And If some of your teachers are still alive, then you can contact them, send them a note, write them a letter, send them an email, give them a call, because, you know, they all made a difference in our lives, right? We wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for amazing teachers and staff. And my commitment to them as we go into the special session and next year is to continue to advocate for public education, for teacher and educator compensation, and all educational employees. I agree with Ms. Mayer that it's everybody who works in the schools plays a role in helping educate our kids. Around graduation, I think a lot of you saw where we started and where we ended up. You know, if we weren't under the governor's order, it would be a different story, but we don't have a lot of options. And I think we came up with a good solution. I was pleased, you know, we got a lot of feedback, and, you know, I don't mind taking the heat on things. And if we have to stick to our guns, we stick to our guns, and we have on a number of occasions taken unpopular stances. But on this particular one, I saw no reason to, if people are willing to wait a whole year or whatever it takes to have an in-person graduation, we will do that. We will still have the virtual, those kids that want to, students that want to participate in the grab and go ceremony. I think it's also a historic event to have participated in that with your friends. And if you choose to do that, terrific. So we're offering options that should fit everyone. There'll be more information coming on the virtual, and we do want to include the student board members in that process, okay, as part of the board, not necessarily part of your school. So there'll be more information coming to you about that later. Other announcements: early college opportunities high school pilot. Santa Fe Public Schools is working with Jamae Blevin, founder and CEO of Innovate Educate, and Tamara Bates, Vice President of Strategy and Programs at Innovate Educate, to involve about 20 ECO students in virtual internships this summer. What we think this will result in is very exciting. They will be able to earn 4 to 5 micro-credentials from the Santa Fe Community College, and the Santa Fe Community Foundation and USENDA are helping us fund this exciting initiative. Santa Fe Public Schools was invited to apply for phase 1 of PED-sponsored structured literacy for professional development, and we were selected. And so we will be beginning this May and continuing through next school year. It will fund and coordinate professional development for first grade teachers, school administrators, and other educators who provide reading instruction to first graders. Very proud of that. Fits in with our Read First initiative. And now we'd like to share a video montage from Teaching and Learning and our Instructional Technology Department.
The Earth Day, it's the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So Earth Day was first celebrated back in 1970. The Earth has changed a lot over the last 50 years, and unfortunately not always for the better. And now more than ever, it is so very important that we really work to protect and honor the Earth, as well as re-beautify and rewild it. And that's why I like this story. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Here's Tokyo Digs a Garden. Tokyo lived with his mother, his father, his grandfather, and a cat named Kevin in a small house that stood among tall buildings.
Disfruta del tiempo, mañana podría cambiar. Bueno, espero que les haya gustado la historia. La actividad que vamos a hacer ahora consiste en eso. Vamos a dibujar el tiempo que hace hoy. Para eso tenemos que asomarnos en la ventana o salir por la puerta, observar bien, contestar a la pregunta y hacer un dibujo del tiempo que hace con sus diferentes partes. ¿Ok? Bueno, espero que lo hayan disfrutado. Hasta el próximo video.
My robot consists of just a couple parts. I need a battery to weigh it down, a couple popsicle sticks as the base, and then just a couple straws on the bottom to act. That way they can hold the tubes up, the sticks that I placed in. That way they can hold the wheels and it's able to turn. And the sticks in the back here and the front are to support the rubber band. Simply put the rubber band on here, put on the back stick, and then start winding it backwards. When the rubber band is fully winded as you want it, you let go and it'll zoom off. Simple.
Oh, we're going to skip over to this now. Go ahead. These are just a gallery of some of the winning projects. You won't be able to read the poems and all of that, but we'll have those. They are available online, but go ahead with that, Tom.
That's it.
Okay. So I'm still on my announcements. But if David, if we go to the website, David Carl, our Chief Engagement Officer, they'll be able to see the poems and whatnot, and the short stories and all of that.
Yes, we have everything on the website.
And then I think the PowerPoint was also going to be made available to the board, so that if they wanted to read the poems and short stories, you can do that as well.
Yeah, we can
because
absolutely add the non-visual categories to the PowerPoint and distribute it to the board.
That would be terrific. Thank you.
Yep.
I also wanted to announce the Capitol High School team. They won the prestigious award at the New Mexico Supercomputing Challenge. The team, consisting of Capitol High seniors Edward Peña, Germán Rojo, and Oscar Sandoval Torres, won the New Mexico Technology and Education Award for research for creating a supercomputing project called Gun Block, detecting guns in a video stream using machine learning. Going forward, Eduardo has been admitted to several colleges, but most likely will go study at the University of Denver. He received Davis and Lano scholarships. Herman will study at the University of Denver and receive Presidential and Davis, New Mexico, and Daniel scholarships. And Oscar will study at NMSU, and he received the J. Robert Oppenheimer and Crimson Success scholarships. I also want to express my deep appreciation to Barbara Tetrases, their dedicated teacher who spent countless hours over several years assembling and guiding this team. A tremendous thank you as well to the mentors who worked with this team and previous teams. They are David Gunter from Los Alamos National Laboratories, Dr. Mark Galassi from Lano and founder of the Institute for Computing and Research, and Dr. Matthew Curry from Sandia Lab. The New Mexico Supercomputing Challenge pairs students and volunteers, scientists, and computer programmers who serve as mentors in projects ranging from ecosystem research to wildfire reduction. There was a question at a previous board meeting of the use of the $10 million in GeoBond funds. I believe that was for ECO. Our Deputy Superintendent, Krissy Wagner, has a few remarks.
Board President, board members, Superintendent Garcia. I believe the question was how we would be spending the remaining 2017 GeoBond funds with an upcoming bond sale. So we have some projects including ECO, Mandela International Magnet School, some PV solar projects and cistern watering system, and roofing at a few of our sites district-wide. In addition to the upcoming bond sale, we have some remaining cash, but have paced ourselves out well to complete the work from the 2017 GeoBond funds in alignment with the facility master plan. So that really completes the summary of the projects we have forthcoming.
And Ms. Wagner, you also, there was a question on tiers 1 and 2 of the facilities master plan.
Sure. At a previous board meeting, Board President Noble, board member Superintendent Garcia, Mr. Romero took us through a pretty high-level overview of facility master planning. And one thing unique to our facility master planning for 2021 is that we asked our planners, who are architects and engineers, who team with our Santa Fe Public Schools construction management team, to take more time to look at facilities with the most need. And so we put them at the beginning of the facility walkthrough, and we called them Tier 1. I'm going to read off the Tier 1 schools, which are the ones who most likely are the most aged or the largest properties with very complex sites. And we wanted to spend as much time as we could in those Tier 1 schools to develop comprehensive reports of all the deficiencies in those facilities. I'll read you the list, and then I'll briefly explain tiers 2 and 3, and then I will send this to the board members so they can see it. But the Tier 1 schools are Acequia Madre, Chaparral, ECO, EJ Martinez, Ortiz Middle School, Nava Elementary School, Mandela International Magnet School, Santa Fe High School, and Wood Gormley Elementary School. And again, their commonality. Go ahead.
Excuse me, this is Lorraine Price checking in late.
Marvelous. Welcome, Vice President Price. Did you just
I've been
jump
listening
on?
to, excuse me?
How long have you been with us?
About 5 minutes.
Okay, great. If we could, for the record, note that Vice President Price joined us at about 5:55, and actually Board Secretary Garcia joined us at 5:43, as I got a text and saw his name pop up. And you're still here, Secretary Garcia, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. We have the full board. All right. Ms. Yonda Wagner, please continue.
Sure. So those were the tier 1 schools receiving the most comprehensive evaluation. They're complete. The reports are in a draft form. We'll be presenting those to the CRC, I believe, at an upcoming meeting. Our tier 2 schools have slightly less need. Maybe they're less aged facilities or have had recent renovations. They still get the same facility evaluation, but they may require less time because there's hypothetically less deficiencies. So the tier 2 schools are Capitol High School, El Dorado Community School, Gonzales Community School, Nye Early Childhood Center, Pinon Elementary School, Sweeney Elementary School, Chisuke Elementary School, and then Turquoise Trail is a charter school, but we own the facility, and so we also evaluate and include that in the facility master plan. Any facilities, schools or adult facilities I have not named thus far are in the newest, best condition district-wide. They still get evaluated. However, they'll take less time. We put them to the end. We still present data on every single facility to the CRC and to the Board of Education. And I will send a follow-up list, a comprehensive list with a description of the tiers and a reminder about the evaluation process to the superintendent to share with the board.
I'd like to thank Deputy Superintendent Wagner, and this was in response to a request from Board Member Gonzalez. Just couple more updates and I'll be done. Human Resources asked that we share that contract renewals notices were sent out May 1st. There has been a 28% reduction in resignations and retirements compared to the same time last year. HR has participated in 2 virtual job fairs and is working on setting up its own. HR sent substitute service renewals forms to 200 plus substitutes. And then the update on remote learning from Dr. Ryan and Deputy Superintendent Sink, Dr. Neil Weaver and Dr. Melissa Lomax meet weekly to discuss remote learning, including parent engagement and providing support. Here's a glimpse of what they're doing currently. Training for parents is also, I guess, they've been working on that. District opened a help desk to assess parents, and calls are coming in from staff as well. I think we also get a few student calls there. And Atalaya held grade level meetings with parents last week. Cesar Chavez had an open house for parents. One interesting thing about Cesar Chavez, they had 150 people attend. This was higher than in-person parent meetings. So I think, again, there are so many lessons that we're learning about how to be able to contact people in a different way because of, using this modality. I think I shared that with you last week, that I've been able to attend more staff meetings in a much more effective way. Of course, it's always great to be person to person, but I'm able to maximize my time. But I thought that was interesting that more parents participated at Cesar Chavez in this format than they have ever before for in-person meetings. And I could see that, right? You can be cooking for your family, come join the meeting for 30 minutes and then go back to do what you need to do. So it might be a way to increase parent engagement that we're going to look at as we move forward. And I believe that concludes all of my comments. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Dr. Garcia. Okay, We are clicking along here. We're now on item 8, the presentation, COVID-19, ongoing and future pandemic response, students' perspective.
I did notice that Dr. Gonzalez had her hand up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I missed that. Dr. Gonzalez, go ahead, please. I think you're muted if you're speaking. There we go.
Speaking. I'm
There we go.
speaking. I just wanted to thank Dr. Garcia and her team for putting together the presentation on the award winners for the Superintendent's Challenge. That was great to see all the little projects. And I'll look forward to going online and looking at the poems and different things that were written up. So thank you. Did you hear me?
Yes, yes, thank you very much.
Madam President, I'm going to turn this over to Deputy Superintendent Wagner, who will introduce the student board members and give some context for why they are presenting tonight. Dr.
Okay,
Wagner,
thank you.
Deputy Superintendent Wagner.
Thank you, Superintendent. Board President Noble, board members, Superintendent Garcia. I have the privilege of serving as a mentor to our student board members. And I've worked with board member Torres and board member McGinnis for the last couple of years. And they are representing not only their high schools, but our community in their very important role as student board members. One of their tasks, besides attending one meeting a month throughout the school year and presenting on topics relevant to their campuses and weighing in on topics that the board is visiting, their biggest job for the school year is to pick a topic of their choice and study it from their perspective, from a student perspective, and bring it to you, the Board of Education, for consideration and viewing. So Mr. Chavez, Mr. Larry Chavez, serves as the teacher of record for these two high school students who I think are chomping at the bit to be done with their credits and celebrate this huge time in their lives. I just want to take a point of privilege and tell you all I'm so proud of them. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with them. They are articulate, humble, very driven students, and I can't wait to see what they do with their futures. So with that, Ms. Torres and Mr. McGinnis picked what we believe to be a timely topic, and they'll be presenting to you this evening and then standing for questions. So Ms. Torres, do you want to go ahead and kick it off?
Of course. Hello guys, I am student board member Mercedes Torres, and I wanted to give you the student perspective on the ongoing future pandemic response of COVID-19 and e-learning. Okay, so some background regarding online learning is, so due to COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus, schools were shut down. Santa Fe Public Schools gave every student a Chromebook with the charger and the case to complete the rest of the school year. Surveys were sent out to students to see if they have Wi-Fi or not, and locations were sent out, such as like public libraries and student parking lots that allowed students to use their Wi-Fi, and teachers are using websites such as Google Classroom and open access to complete assignments. So the current state of online learning. So what? Online learning is also known as e-learning, is an education that is presented online. It is a form of distance learning that takes place somewhere other than the traditional classroom. When online learning for Santa Fe Public Schools started March 30th, just like a traditional week, assignments are sent out Monday through Friday. Why? So e-learning is brought to us because of COVID-19 and has taken place now, not just in Santa Fe Public Schools, but all around New Mexico. And this is just to stop the spread of the virus, where online e-learning is designed to be done at home, but it can also be done in places such as like the public libraries and the student parking lots if students do not have Wi-Fi. And how? So to complete the online assignments, students were given a Chromebook. Teachers used websites such as Google Classroom and Open Access to share important information and complete classes with little disruption. So attendance for online learning. Teachers are still required to put in attendance every single week for their students, and this can be done by having a survey at the beginning of every week that students fill out with their ID, or this can also be given out from the previous week where students turn in assignments, and then that is their attendance for the previous week, and that goes so on. So what has been working throughout this is the online process has worked very well. Students have been able to complete assignments and turn them in. If there's any questions, students know that they can email their teachers, or we do have an app on our phones called Remind, and everything is answered in less than a 24-hour time period. If there's any trouble submitting assignments, they're very lenient and have extended due dates. And there's been more time to complete graduation requirements if the students communicate with their counselors.
This is the part where I am going to take over now. My name is Harvey McGinnis, and I am going to provide some context for where my student perspective comes from. So I both have the privilege and responsibility of being the oldest of 5 children. My youngest sibling is at Wood Gormley right now. She's in 3rd grade. I also have a sibling in 5th grade at Wood Gormley. Those are my sisters, Wiley and Freya. And my younger brother attends Santa Fe High School in 9th grade. And my other younger brother attends NMSA for his sophomore year. That being the case, that also means that I get to see and often troubleshoot the online experience for many different types of online learning across many different age groups. And from that, we have come to learn that there is a significant difference between having access to the internet and having a solid connection. Many students and staff members have reported concerns that video chat, voice call, and document submission do not necessarily work in areas even with reception. Document submission can sometimes glitch if there's an issue with page refreshing, or the Canvas open access platform, which has become the predominant method of teaching, is occasionally does have issues with the connection. The video calls that have become commonplace now, as opposed to standard classroom instruction, can often be disrupted in the case of poor reception on either the teacher's end or on the student's end. If it's on the teacher's end, then most of the students can't even see their instruction, and this leads to a whole host of problems. Additionally, many of the younger students are not adept at the infrastructure required for online learning. From Chromebooks to iPads, there was a lot of a disconnect between the two when that transition was made. And as such, elementary school students in particular lost additional time that would have been spent otherwise learning concepts and building on social skills and the like, all things that would be done in person. They now had to learn how to use computers and iPads. Next slide, please. Additionally, presenting content through open access or Google Classroom, these are the two primary platforms. There's a lot more responsibility on the students, regardless of age level, to do their work and to turn it in. For younger students, another problem that has compounded all of this is that children don't necessarily understand how to work an email inbox. I was working with my sister Freya a couple of days ago, and she had dozens of unread emails from teachers, from aides, from all sorts of different inputs from different platforms, and it was just too much for most students to process. This goes all the way up into high school. I know that I get somewhere on the order of 50 emails a day across 4 different email accounts, at least 30 of which are from school, and I'm only on a half schedule. So expanding that across to other students, I can only imagine the multitude of communications across different platforms that is just swarming and distracting them from work that is no longer presented to them. In a standard classroom environment, students are presented with material and they're presented with work, and teachers will follow up with them if they are not turning in work. On the online platform, students have to find where their assignments are. They have to navigate different platforms, and they have to ask often for content. While teachers have been excellent and far and beyond expectations with leniency for due dates and answering questions ahead of time beyond outside of normal class hours, there is still a lot of responsibility that has now been placed on students regardless of their age and regardless of their normal capacity. So some of the possible solutions for families are that the disconnect for younger students between online and in-person learning is certainly something that can be addressed once we do have a return to the classroom setting, simply just because it's infrastructure, it's hardware. This is something that taking some class time to learn, well, this is how you work an email, this is how you work Canvas, this is how you read through Google Classroom, this is how you open and submit an assignment. This is how you troubleshoot a video conference. Unfortunately, these are things that need to be taught to students. At the start of the next year, a survey should be conducted about internet connectivity and strength, as opposed to just the yes or no question that standardly goes along when Chromebooks and iPads are handed out. Just because a student has internet connection one day doesn't necessarily mean that it will be thorough through to the rest of the week or the next month, etc. Additionally, there's a split amongst teachers and students between Canvas and Google Classroom. Canvas, or open access, allows for tracking timed assignments, while Google Classroom is more easily read. For that reason, I believe that Google Classroom is a much better platform for younger and elementary school students, while Canvas is something that should be used primarily by high school students. Both of these networks have applications. However, Canvas does not send readily accessible, Google Classroom does not send readily accessible notifications on when new work is assigned, except through the email platform. And again, when you're talking about younger students, they don't necessarily have phones on them 24/7 to see that they're getting emails that they have work that they haven't turned in, not because they're lazy, but because they don't know that they have the work, and they don't necessarily have the drive to go look for it. Preparedness for in-person learning. So assuming that some reasonable norm for in-person instruction does come fairly quickly, and I think we're all hoping for that, knock on wood, commonly used facilities are less than sanitary, regardless of age level, regardless of the building. I mean, certainly at the high schools, places like bathrooms and gym equipment, water fountains, all of these can use more frequent cleaning, even if it's not necessarily in depth. We don't need to close down the bathrooms 10 times a day to clean them out and scrub all the toilets, but wiping off drinking fountains with Clorox wipe or something akin to that would certainly do a great deal of good in preventing the spread of any infection. Additionally, students will get sick. While the pandemic will most likely subside, coronavirus is going to be a lasting issue, especially in the next year. That being the case, the attendance policy surrounding student absences should be reevaluated. We don't, as it stood before the coronavirus pandemic, when students would get sick, there was a lot of pressure to come to school. And this certainly extended to adults as well. I had many teachers that were at school with a cold, or students sitting next to me with a fever just because they couldn't miss another day of school without a letter from the truancy office or the like. And for that reason, now that we have so much more of an online presence, student absences are certainly something that need to be reevaluated. Anticipating a second wave, the district so far has done an absolutely phenomenal job of maintaining a discussion with internet providers, so that way as many students have internet as possible. And this is something that definitely needs to continue into the next year, especially with the likelihood being that there will be another wave, even if it's a smaller one, of the coronavirus. In the event of a second pandemic, I see two possible avenues of school closure. The first one being mirror what has already been done, what has already worked, and close all of the schools for a period of weeks and then reevaluate. Other states have tested closing schools as cases appear in those schools, disinfecting them and then reopening that individual school after a period of weeks. So that way, as opposed to the whole district or the whole state shutting down, you have localized incidents that are cleaned as quickly as possible. While this is disruptive, it has been used to some degree of success in other locations, and it may be something to consider in the year to come. With that, I will yield to any questions or comments.
Questions from the board?
This is Sarah. I don't have any questions, but I did want to say thank you to both of you. Harvey, I have 2 elementary age children at home, and so I've seen they have 2 different laptops in 3rd and 4th grade, and so I can definitely get a little insight there on how different teachers are doing things and also what the capabilities are. I mean, there's a big difference between a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old. And so I can imagine, you know, that's across the board true. And so thank you for addressing that issue. I think it's very relevant to, it's not a one size fits all kind of thing.
Other thoughts, comments from the board? Yeah, Dr. Garcia. Oh. If you raise your hand.
I'll wait for the board first, and then I'd like to be after the board.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I would like, this is Board Member Price. I would like to thank both of you young people for your 2 years of service. It's been a delight for me to talk with you and also to interact with you and to see you there and to listen to your comments. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to echo that, what Vice President Price said. I think you two have been exemplary members of the board, of how student board members can go. Your questions have been great. You haven't shied away from getting involved in discussions, and I really appreciate that. And honestly, I wasn't prepared for this to be your last meeting, and it's making me super sad. But, you know, that's what happens around graduations. It's that happy sad thing. And you've done some great work, and that was a really wonderful presentation. It points out a lot, and I'm sure Ms. Yonda Wagner has a copy of it, because I think we might want to look at it. I think you've done a really good job of summarizing a bunch of the salient points here, including, and you know, Board Member Bose touched upon this, but just putting it very, very simply, that young students don't know how to manage an email account and an email inbox. And I really appreciate that and realize that's been one of the issues in our house. And it never even occurred to me to sort of go back to the beginning and talk through, you know, okay, what are the communications protocols, and how often are you checking your email, and is this part of the regimen? Because that just has not been, and I have a 9-year-old, and not been a part of my son's program. So I think you've really summed up well a lot of the issues, and, you know, pointed to some important things we'll have to think about as we go on with school in the Santa Fe Public Schools, even if you're not going to go on with us in the Santa Fe Public Schools, because you'll both be getting your diplomas and moving on to bigger and better things. But thank you so much for all the time you've spent with us, and energy and wisdom, and for bringing us your perspective. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam President, this is Rudy.
Go ahead, Secretary Garcia.
I just like to echo what you just said. As Vice President, excellent students. Thank you for what you guys have done. Awesome kids. You guys are great. You guys are awesome. Very, 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 very intelligent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board and board members. I really enjoyed your presentation, and I wanted to respond to a couple of items I think it'd be interesting for you to know. And also, we do have a copy of your presentation, and sorry about that. And we definitely are going to utilize it. So you're right on about the different platforms, and we wanted to go with one platform, but it was very difficult for our teachers. Many of them were adjusted to one. We knew that this was going to be a problem. And so you are spot on. If we have to go into this next year, I think we're looking at one platform for K through 2, and then probably looking at open access. And we have provided the training to people on that. The issue with the email, I had never come to my attention, but I can tell you that my husband and I have 9 grandchildren spanning 2 districts in New Mexico and 3 in Arizona. And every parent was horrified when they found out the amount of email that their kids hadn't read and assignments that they had not done. And so, you know, I thought, well, that's interesting. Little did I know I had that problem in our own house here. So that was, no one had ever brought that to my attention. So we appreciate that. You know, I think that how we will proceed with closures, opening, reopening, attendance policies, all is handled at the state level. But I appreciate what you've shared here, and we definitely will continue to share that with decision makers at the state. This project was so timely and so valuable, and we're going to use your input. So we thank you very, very much. And can you share with us what, if you have them and you care to, your post-graduation plans?
Certainly. I am going to attend Johns Hopkins next year. I was accepted into a 5-year master's program in international studies. So I will be attending the School for Advanced International Studies in Washington, D.C. For my 4th and 5th year. After that, hopefully career in politics or diplomacy.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. And I hope that you will, if you have a break, stop by and let us know how you're doing.
Will do.
And I will be attending the University of New Mexico, and I finally decided I wanted to major in biology so I can potentially go to medical school.
That's terrific. Well, we're just all so very proud of you, and thanks again for a great project. It will be used, trust me.
Thank you.
Madam President, this is Rudy.
Go ahead.
The whole career about politics, I like that smile. So, you know, thank you for the young generation getting involved in politics, because politics is interesting and very hard. And that's good that you're getting involved in that, because I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Somebody told me the other day, I bet you feel like a priest. I'm like, a priest? What does that mean? Well, the only time they talk to you is when they have problems. When they want something done, I'm like, oh, nobody calls and tells you, thank you. But that's awesome that the young generation wants to get involved in politics. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And international affairs.
Certainly.
Hallelujah. And biology, my goodness. Mercedes, you're going to have to save the world a few times.
That's a plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move on to the consent agenda under action items. Item A on the consent is the consent agenda, and I think we will need to consider one set of minutes separately. And that is the study session of April 16th. Vice President Price, you didn't attend that one, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone would like to consider separately? Okay, I had a couple quick questions, if I could, about the consent agenda under contracts over $50,000. I just wanted to ask for a little bit more on the Santa Fe High School new plaza construction upgrades. That is, it looks like about $1.2 million. If we could just hear what's changed there and well, if it's changed, or it does say it's changed from the original scope, and just a little summary of what's happening in the new plaza construction at Santa Fe High.
Yes, Madam President, thank you for that question. Deputy Superintendent Wagner, can you respond, please?
I can, Board President, Board Members, Superintendent Garcia. You may recall Santa Fe High School was a part of a rather large master planning process. And we did the first phase of the project is relocation of that administration building and reorientating really the whole site to provide some greater security and better traffic. And this leads me to the issue of the plaza. The plaza change order, while plaza sounds sort of luxurious and optional, the plaza is a hardscape that ties together no less than 4 buildings on the Santa Fe High School campus. And Santa Fe High School has been wrought with drainage issues for many, many, many years. And upon the relocation of the administration and the leveling of the site, bringing in fill and remediating many of these drainage issues, there's been some faults discovered underground, some unforeseen conditions that could have never been seen, literally under concrete, under stairs, retaining walls that were no longer holding their structure in front of the library. And so the plaza project, although it will be absolutely usable and beautiful and an amazing environment for the students and the faculty, when finished, it has a really utilitarian purpose of providing proper drainage and proper, really foundational support to the 4 buildings around it. And so that's why the change order is so big. We did anticipate redoing the plaza. We didn't anticipate the extent of work needed for retaining walls, replacing stairs and infrastructure. We feel really confident that this is the best time to do this portion of the project. And of note, we are still within the project budget and on schedule for the project to be complete this fall. So I think that concludes my summary. I'm happy to stand for more questions.
That answers my question. Thank you very much. Also on the contracts, I'm thinking I'm reading this correctly, but the Enterprise Builders Corporation, there's a change order for Capitol High School for laminating shelving. It says on the grid that it's changing order for laminating shelving for a total of about $2.6 million. I'm guessing that's the total project budget, not the budget for laminating shelving.
Madam President, if I may, Ms. Wagner.
Board President Noble, I'd like to defer to Mr. Romero on that change order. He should be on the call and can help us with the detail, but that would be the total project budget, not the change order. I just want to make sure you get the answer you need.
Madam President, ask the question again, please. I'm sorry, I lost you guys.
So ultimately, my question is just one to clarify, because the materials were a tiny bit confusing to me, that the additional $7,000 for it, which brings, it says in the purpose site, it says change order for laminating shelving for a total of $2.6 million. And I just want to be clear that that is the total budget for Capitol High School, and that we're not spending $2.6 million on laminating shelving, or are we?
So,
no.
So the question is, Is it about Santa Fe High or Capital?
It's about capital. The previous question was about Santa Fe High.
So my question was Santa Fe High. We have a 1.1.
Hang on, let Mr. Romero answer if you would, please.
Yep. Thank you, Board President, board members, Superintendent. The change order is for $7,058 to laminate those shelves, which brings the total to the 2.54 million.
For the Capitol High project.
The Phase 2 Capitol High project. So it's an additional $7,058.
But we're not spending $2.6 million on laminating shelving.
Not at all.
Okay, thank you very much. Secretary Garcia, did you want to clarify anything there?
Yes, on Santa Fe High, we have a $1.2 million change order.
Yes. Which Ms. Wagner spoke about in the previous answer.
So I guess my question is, whenever we did the geotest, all the boreholes and this and that, how come the engineer or the architect did not catch that? And so we have a $1 million change order. So does that mean that we actually have to increase the architect engineer's contract now and the contractor's contract?
Madam President, I'm going to have Ms. Wagner clarify. She responded to that. I think you might have missed the first part, Mr. Garcia, but she'll clarify that. Go ahead, Ms. Wagner.
Sure, Board President, Board Member, Superintendent Garcia. This change order reflects an owner-initiated increase in scope. So this isn't an area that was bored for the purposes of erecting the new administrative building. This is the plaza that connects 4 buildings ultimately together and needs to be remediated in a manner that will help with the infrastructure and the drainage of the entire campus. And now is the time to do it. We have a vacant campus. We have a faulty plaza. We need to secure the facilities around it for the unforeseeable future. And so this is a change order initiated by Santa Fe Public Schools to protect the integrity of the buildings around it and the new build. There are always fees associated with increased scope. In this case, I believe they're nominal. They'll come to you if they haven't already on a contract extension, and we'll explain them in their entirety. This particular change order is for the general contractor for the scope that we have asked them to increase as a result of the conditions that were exposed during the construction.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wagner. Anything else, Secretary Garcia?
So the $1 million, is that just for construction, or is that for the architectural fees and engineering fees?
Board Secretary Garcia, Board President, board members, they're separate contracts. So architectural fees are separate from construction fees. And again, any fees associated with the plaza redesign would be nominal in comparison to the construction fees. They typically are, but this is simply a change order. So the general contractor can proceed with the work of remediating and rebuilding the plaza on an unoccupied campus moving forward.
Hello?
Still there?
I'm here. So so why do we not bring the architectural engineering fees first before the construction fees?
Go ahead, Ms. Wagner.
Sure. Board Secretary Garcia, Board President, board members, Superintendent Garcia. I'm sorry at this time, I can't tell you. Perhaps we've already brought it forward. I don't want to put Mr. Romero on the spot. I don't have the last contracts to come forward, but we always bring forward any changes associated with design, engineering, construction as a part of a normal part of our processes. I can't tell you at what time that contract came forward. This is just for the construction, and this is so we can proceed with the construction of the plaza.
Thank you, Madam President. Krissy, with all due respect, So did the architect or the engineer actually tell us what we actually need, or is the contractor telling us what we need? Because my whole point is the architect or the engineer on the project should have told us what we need, how we need it, and why we need it, and why did they miss it in the beginning? That's just my point.
Okay, do you have any further questions for staff?
No.
Okay. Any other questions on anything on consent?
Madam President, this is Rudy. Are we going to take your items separate? Are we going to vote on?
I was about to make a motion for consent items 1 through 4 and 5B. So the minutes from April 21st plus consent items 1 through 4. And I would go ahead and make a motion to approve those items. Is there a second?
Madam President, I'm not going to for the change order at this time because it's just unclear, and I don't feel that the process that was done is right and appropriate. So I will not vote for the change order at this time. I think it's needed, but I feel that we actually, however, I feel like I'm just not happy with the way the change order was done. Thank you. I will not vote for the change order.
Madam President,
Yes, Dr. Garcia.
I'd like to ask Deputy Superintendent Wagner what the impact will be if this change order is not approved.
So again, to be clear, this was an owner-initiated change order. Superintendent Garcia, Board President Noble, and board members, we requested this additional scope to preserve the integrity of all the surrounding buildings. It was not something brought to us by a second or a third party. This will dramatically delay the project, and I would be very concerned about the nature of the campus upon the students' return in the fall. This is time sensitive. We were able to move this up in the schedule into May without students on campus, and highly recommend that we consider this as an integral part of the project. It's not optional, and it's something we've requested. We always knew it was going to cost more. We set aside funding in the project budget to make sure that we had money to address the plaza. We were better able to articulate the scope when we went in and did demolition and discovery after students left. Those are things we couldn't do early in the job because we had students on campus and we were operating a high functioning high school. So I really stand behind the scope of this work and request that we consider the item this evening.
Madam President, to that point, I think the staff was proactive and ahead of the game. And I think that this was not a fault of contractors or architects or anyone else, but rather the staff being proactive in identifying this, saving time. But actually at this point, it would create more problems not to approve it than not. So I hope that you will consider the staff.
Madam President,
Okay, hang on just a second. For the purposes of procedure, I think my motion died for lack of a second. And we may want to consider the items on the consent agenda individually. Secretary Garcia and then Board Member Gonzalez.
Madam President, I understand staff. I understand the whole holding up the project. This is a $1 million change order. The $1 million change order is like, wait a minute. So those are just the concerns that I have. I understand slowing up the project, holding the project up, the need for it to happen. But a $1 million change order is, I guess, whenever you have a procurement project and you have a change order over 10% or 20% as procurement rules, I just have concerns about that. Those are what I have. Thank you.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President, I understand the whole best thing to do, best thing for the school, the best thing for this and that, but a $1 million change order is a lot to me. Sorry, not sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm calling on Dr. Gonzalez now. I believe you had your hand up, Dr. Gonzalez. Is that right? You're gonna unmute.
Hi.
There we go.
Okay. I didn't have my hand up, but
Oh, okay.
it's okay.
Sorry about that. Doing that. Okay. Board Member Bose, looks like she did have her hand up, unless I'm just starting to hallucinate hands and screens and stuff.
Madam
Board Member
President,
Bose,
and,
yeah.
Dr. Garcia, members of the board, can I just clarify? I thought that I heard that despite this change order, it was still within budget. Is that correct? I mean, if the overall budget was originally approved.
I heard that as well, Ms. Yonda
So
Wagner.
I just think that that's, if that's what I heard, then that might be relevant to our discussions.
Ms. Wagner.
Board President, Board Member Superintendent Garcia, that is correct. The total project budget is intact. We're not asking for additional money. Again, the plaza was always a part of the scope of the job. And one thing I'd like to explain is this was a construction manager at risk job. That means you're designing and building almost simultaneously. And again, it took until this time in the project to understand the scope necessary to complete the plaza. And it's all within our budget. We're very pleased actually with the outcome and the project that we're presenting to you.
Thank you.
Madam President, this is Rudy. Good question.
Go ahead.
Good question, Member Bose. So this $1 million, was actually set aside? Was it contingency? Where was this $1 million set aside from where? That's a lot of money. I'm okay with that happening, and I'm okay with that.
I think what is confusing, Mr. Garcia, and I understand where you're coming from. Because typically change orders, I get hacked off about change orders, right? You go out on a project and all of a sudden it's been under bid, and all of a sudden, oh gosh, for us to finish the project, it's going to cost you X amount of money. And that's typically the nature of change orders. This is very different in that it was already within the budget. It's more of a timing piece. And I think that we were able to be proactive in that regard, but it is within budget. It's not a change order that's going to increase the budget for the project.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you for the question, Board Member Bose.
Okay, Secretary Garcia, do you want to consider this item separate from the other consent items and contracts we're considering tonight?
I just want to know where we found $1 million in this budget. And why was it the scope of work not initiated in the beginning whenever the architect and the engineer actually bid it out and designed it? And we went forward with the construction contract. All of a sudden now we have this, we have $1 million change order. That's the question I have, sorry. Not sorry, but that's the question I have. So now we have to increase the time frame. Now we have to increase the architect's fees. Now we have to increase the engineering fees and everybody else's fees, right? Because they actually designed this project this big. Now we have this project that's this big. So you have engineering fees, architectural fees, and I'll have to get increased. So by us approving the construction fees of $1 million, now the architect comes in and says, well, I need some more money too, because we have to redesign. The engineer, I need some more money also because we have to redesign it. Those are just the questions I have. So if we have a $1.1 million construction increase, now the architect has some more money to increase his contractual services as well as the engineer, right?
Ms. Wagner, can you clarify, please?
Board President Noble, board members, Superintendent Garcia. The nature of construction manager at risk is that you release the portions of the project that are designed and ready to build. So this $1 million has always been a part of the total project budget. At this point in time in the project, we finalized the design of the plaza, and a combination of remaining unencumbered funds for the job allocated at the beginning, as well as perhaps some contingency set aside, will pay for the $1 million for the plaza. But the nature of construction manager at risk is that you proceed with the portions of the contract that are designed and ready to build as the project progresses. So we commenced the dirt work early in the project. Then we extended their contract to include the vertical build, you know, the actual building coming out of the ground. Now we're extending their contract to build the plaza. We increased the complexity of the scope of the plaza at our choosing with a future, you know, a future view in mind, and because it can be contained within the project budget. This is the time we expected to bring this forward. We're extremely fortunate to have a vacant campus, so the work can commence here in May. And it was always a planned part of the project. The amount of work being done has expanded slightly, but this is exactly when it was to hit, and it was budgeted as a part of the job. So that's why there is $1 million to request this change order.
Thank you, Krissy.
And it is a very large drainage right there with Arroyo Chumisa, the second largest in Santa Fe beyond the Santa Fe River and some sandy hills and other things, as I recall. Okay, Secretary Garcia, do you want to ask any more specific questions? And otherwise, can you give guidance as to whether we can consider this all together or whether we need to pull this contract out for a separate vote?
Madam President, I'm not going to vote for the change order at this point. I understand it's needed, but how we went about it, I don't agree with it. So I would like to take it out of the consent agenda, please.
Okay. Do you want to vote on this contract separately? Are you happy to vote on the other contracts that we're considering tonight?
Yes, I'm okay with voting with all the other contracts, and I will not vote for this change order.
Okay. I will amend a motion to, I'll make a new motion, move for approval of consent item 1, budget adjustment requests, consent item 3, E-rate, consent item 4, also E-rate, and consent item 5B, the approval of the minutes for April 21st. I'm moving for the approval of those things, 1, 3, 4, and 5B.
This
Is
is
there a
Sarah.
second?
I will second.
I second it.
Okay, we'll say Board Member Bozé seconded that one. That's what I heard first. We'll do a roll call vote on this. Vice President Price? Vice President Price, are you still with us? I'll come back to her. Secretary Garcia on this item, which does not include the contract.
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Board Member Bozé,
Yes.
and the president votes yes. So those items have been approved. Now, if we could vote on the contracts over $50,000 with the exception of the change order for Santa Fe High for Jane's Corporation. Am I saying that correctly, Ms. Yonda Wagner? I think I've got it. I'm just clicking through my agenda items. Yes.
Just for clarification,
Mhm.
can't we still vote on it?
We are still going to vote on it. We're just going to vote on it separately to allow Secretary
okay.
Garcia to vote on the other
Okay.
contract. So at this
Okay. All right.
stage, we will vote on all the contracts for board approval with the exception of the 1.186936.47 contract. That's the
Okay.
amount for Jane's Corporation. And I will move for
Okay.
approval of all the contracts except that one.
Okay, thank you.
And Vice President Price, I think we'd like to record your vote on the previous items as well.
Yeah, did you hear me?
We did not.
Oh, yes, I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. So for the contracts, with the exception of the 1.186 million for Jane's Corporation for Santa Fe High, I'm moving for approval of those. Is there a second? Okay, Rudy seconded that. Vice President Price,
Yes.
Secretary Garcia,
Yes.
Board Member Gonzalez,
Yes.
and Board Member Bozay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now, continuing a grand tradition, I will move for approval of the Jane's Corporation $1.186 million change order for Santa Fe High. Is there
I
a
will
second?
that. This is Sarah.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with you this time. Board Member Bozay,
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Secretary Garcia,
No, we cannot approve $1.1 million contract with, no, sit down. I understand the, what's happening, but no, I can't support it at this time.
Vice President Price,
Yes.
and the president votes yes. So that is approved. Now we have one more to do on the consent agenda, which is the minutes for the study session on April 16th. I will move for approval of those.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Secretary Garcia,
Yes.
Vice President Price.
I thought I'm not voting on that one.
I know, I was gonna,
Well,
gonna have you say.
I will abstain. I abstain.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Bozay,
Yes.
and the president votes yes. Okay, and just to be clear, because I think I actually missed one, my intention is to vote yes for all of the items on the consent agenda. Because I think I missed counting my own vote on one. Anyway, there we go. Okay, moving on to board discussion and possible action. We have surveys of families and staff, which I put on the agenda. And ultimately, this is, I think, very timely and following on from our student board members' presentation. And it was that I wanted to sort of bring forward for discussion the idea that I think we should be working on some surveys, maybe even virtual focus groups, to understand what our staff and our families and students have experienced and learned during this time, because I think we have an opportunity really to gather this learning and information, some of the basics that, there needs to be training on managing an email inbox, different platforms, and perhaps even, what Dr. Garcia shared about the parent engagement attendance at Ortiz. I am just thinking that we should really, while this is fresh in everyone's mind, make an effort to engage our community and really sort of cement some of this learning and ideas while we have it, because this has been a profound, if unintended, education experiment. Anybody else have thoughts on this? I think go ahead.
I
Is that
just
you?
think that,
Vice President Price?
I just think we have to remember a survey is only as good as the questions asked.
Hallelujah.
So we need to be careful there.
This is Carmen, President, Madam President, Dr. Garcia. When are you going to do this survey?
Well, part of the reason I put it on tonight's agenda was for us to discuss it, figure out a way to potentially develop some good questions, and ideally do it before the end of the year, so that it's fresh and we don't let everything go cold and everybody wander away for summer. Any other thoughts, Dr. Gonzalez, or?
Madam President.
Go ahead.
Dr.
No,
Garcia, then
I'll-
Board Member Bose, or?
We are really, I want to get it done as soon as possible, trying to work with the team and with you all to get this done. We have, I think, 11 more days of school, and we're also like neck deep in budget development, trying to get ready for next study session. I don't know that we can pull off a survey and focus groups in the next 11 days and do it well. I think we can get it done perhaps a week after school is out, but I don't think we can get it done before school is out. It's just, I think it's asking too much of staff right now. But we'd be happy to work on that and work with whomever you like on that. We had intended to do that, and but would love, I think the report that was made tonight, or the presentation, I thought was very insightful. We have been identifying information, I think, hearing from stakeholders about their perspectives, because there's no doubt that we will have some form of this in the year to come, right? We don't know what the state is going to bring, if we're going to have split sessions, what the CDC is recommending, and trying to bring school back up. I can't imagine that there won't be some remote learning intermixed in this. And so we have always felt like we wanted to get more information, and I'm very happy that you've brought that forward and might have a different perspective on some of the things we might want to ask. So we're happy to proceed in any way you can. But I do think we're going to need about a week after to get it, to do a quality job for you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Board Member Bose?
Madam President, Dr. Garcia, members of the board, I love the idea of having a survey. I think it's incredibly important. Before this all happened, when we were talking about our reimagination of what was all possible, this is a pilot, an unintended pilot. And so why not gather the data that we can? I heard what Dr. Garcia was saying, though, and that makes sense. I know that everybody's plates are very full in the last few weeks of school. Me as a parent, this is going to be fresh in my mind, through the end of May. So I don't think that would be a problem for me providing feedback and information. And just to follow up on what Vice President Price said, not only is a survey only as good as the questions, but it's also only as good as the responses that are given. So we should think creatively about making sure that we get as much participation as possible, and providing the survey in different formats, and certainly in Spanish as well, so that we get feedback from as many parents and caregivers as possible.
Dr. Garcia, do you have thoughts on how to move forward if we're going to do that on this?
Madam President, members of the board, one of the things also that I want to mention as we look at surveying or contacting parents, just from my research nationally and knowing our district, that the equity divide is just as alive and well in this process. and families who tend to have parents, right, who are essential workers are probably the least or have the least amount of education, are the least able, I think, in some ways to provide support to their families, their children, right? They may be not even have the computer skills that are being required to do some of this, and we're aware of that. And so the equity divide in terms of access and support is going to be interesting too, and talking to our teachers. So I think in all of the various stakeholders, we need to look at. I don't know if Dr. Ryan or Dr. Sink, Deputy Superintendent Sink, want to share with their thoughts about how we might want to approach it. I had thought, Ms. Noble, if you wanted to assign someone else to give us your thoughts about what you would like asked, or if all the board members would like to give us the ideas of things that you would like to ask, then we can try to work on a survey. We don't want it to be overwhelming either, and something that people will complete. But let me go to my colleagues first and then see what your thoughts are about how you want to approach it. Dr. Ryan and Ms. Sink.
Yes, Board President Noble, members of the board, Dr. Garcia. This is phase one of at least 3 phases for our remote and online services. The first one was a reaction. We had very little time to try to stand something up that would allow our students to still have access to teachers and instruction. So the things that we're measuring in this is, are kids having access? Do they have the devices? Are teachers trained initially in how to use the basic tools? We recognized before we started that it would be better to have one application platform and from which to offer our teaching and learning, but we also recognized that to tell teachers that they had to get off something they knew and onto something they didn't know would be a difficult process in just a couple-week period. They have been informed by Dr. Garcia that we will be moving to one platform. And we are also aware of some of the challenges with the elementary school, but again, trying to put something in the reaction phase, that buy a new software, train people how to use it, implement in the system, get it out to the schools was not going to be a successful endeavor. Phase 2 is our strategic planning phase to look at what are the types of things that we need to do for next fall. My team, as well as Ms. Sink's team, have been working daily to look at collecting information about what are the applications that teachers are using, why are they using them, how can we bring them into a single sign-on environment, how can we provide more training to develop the pedagogical skills that teachers need to not only deliver instruction, but to make that social, emotional connection with kids. We are also participating in several weekly calls with school districts around the country because they're facing some of the same challenges. We're identifying what resources they have, what tools we need to implement, what challenges they faced, so that we can also, in our strategic planning build out, be able to accomplish those. At the same time, we're interviewing principals and teachers to determine what is it that they need to help support the environment that we want to deliver in the future. And then phase 3 will be the deployment of that environment. Again, it should have taken us 2 years to stand this up. There will still be some things in the fall that won't be exactly where we need them to be. And we will continue to improve not only the software and applications to deliver this remote learning environment, whether it's remote or blended, where they're doing some face-to-face, some online, or even if we're using it all face-to-face, we've learned several things that we'll be able to leverage over the coming years and improve the system of delivery to students. So we were aware and are aware, and we're aware before we even started some of the challenges that we're faced, but given the short period of time and the stress on teachers and students, to try to put too much change in a short period of time would have been, we would not have had the success. And just a reminder, we were the only school district in the whole state to stand up a K-12 environment with teachers interacting with our kids, and one of the few in the country. So I'm very proud of our teachers, their enthusiasm, as well as the parents who have been very patient with us as we try to deliver. We're looking at data systems that will give us more information on what type of speed of connection that individual families have, that we might be able to address that. And we'll continue with partnerships, not only with the city, but others in our community that can help us create the type of environment that will allow a year's worth of growth in a year, and provide the interaction we need, not only with teachers, but teachers and students to other students, and the content that they're trying to master.
Ms. Sink.
Good evening, President Noble, members of the board, Dr. Garcia. Tom obviously covered most of what I would think needs to be said, or I thank him for what he did say. As he did indicate, our team has been working closely with Tom and Neil's team throughout this process. And I do and have thought about what more can we do for our teachers throughout this whole time of last couple of months. And as we listened to them and sent out information to them, we heard back directly from many, many teachers that they wanted more webinars and more help on certain things. So we found out that we could actually have teachers that were doing really extremely well in this format, and they in really 2 to 3 different platforms, that we've had them actually teaching teachers lately in webinars. So we've created our own webinars, teachers have created webinars, and what we'll do this summer is continue to survey even teachers on more of what they need to be more proficient, and especially in Canvas and the online learning platform that we've chosen. So I'm right along with you on what we want to do more and better. And I think we're excited to work with you in any way we can to learn more about how we can help parents. I will tell you one more thing that Dr. Garcia alluded to most of what we've done this semester to support our parents. But I presented to you earlier in the year a schedule that we asked all teachers to go by. And part of that schedule, for instance, as you remember, we had the 9 o'clock where the teachers would come on and talk to their kids, etc. Well, the other part of that schedule was, I think, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon for at least an hour. Every teacher was to hold office hours. And what I've learned from the teachers, and in fact, Grace and I have talked about these different things as well, is many parents called in as well. Many parents talked with teachers, teachers called parents and helped them help their kids, if you will, which I think has been one of the greatest part of this, is it somehow has brought, I think, an understanding, and probably my most favorite thing that I've learned, and I think parents have learned as well, is the kind of work our teachers do every day. And I think that satisfaction for the teachers feel, I think, prouder of their work and parents have a better understanding of what they do every day. Maybe just a silver lining. At any rate, we're here to work with you. I know there's a lot to improve upon, but I am proud of us, and I'm proud of our superintendent that she took this step, and it was not easy to decide to do something so far out there. And I'm really proud of our district in this state. So thank you.
I do want to share, thank you, Ms. Sink. I do want to share one thing that I think it's important as we develop the survey, and that is the context that we're working in and the directions that we receive from PED on a continuous learning plan. And that is that with the exception of the seniors, they really wanted us to focus on a few critical standards, but really they wanted kids to learn how to learn in this format. That was really what they were going for. And so, you know, student board member McGinnis would not have privy to that context. You know, we did try to share that, but we weren't super explicit because we do want everybody engaged. But the directions from PED were more to kind of get the bugs worked out and get students used to learning in this manner, because I think the sense is we very well may be in this format in, you know, in next year to some degree. I don't know to what. And along the way, a lot of unexpected things have happened. Reaching students who have not, they start off participating and then don't. I mean, the problems that we have during the regular school year don't magically go away because we're online, whether kids have discipline problems, have attention deficit disorder, are hyperactive, are probably exacerbated in this environment, right? That also impact students who were truant and not engaged may not necessarily be more engaged now either. And so it's going to be interesting. And so how we go about, I think it's like, what do we want to learn to help better improve where we're going next, and how we go about surveying. I think we need to make sure that it's segmented and that we do our best to reach all parts of our district and figure out ways to engage families that maybe may not respond to a survey, right? Because some families will be real easy. You send them an email, you send them a survey, they're going to get it done. So I don't know that we answered your question. We said a lot of stuff, President Noble. We're ready to work on it. I think it's really how the board wants to participate. If you'd like the board to email us kind of the gist of what they'd like to know, if you'd like to appoint somebody to work with us to let us know what you want us to incorporate, it's really up to you.
Okay, thank you. That's, yeah, there's a lot in there and there's clearly a lot to pull apart. Other board members have thoughts on the question Dr. Garcia just posed as to how you'd like to be involved?
Well, first I'd like to back up and say, it seems to me, it looks like there's 3 different surveys you're looking at here. Parent, teacher, and staff, and students. And I suggest that you keep the survey no more than like 9 or 10 questions. That's what I wanted to contribute. And what is it that, what are the surveys about? And what are the questions you want answered? Because this seems awfully general to me.
Okay, and I think given what I've heard, ultimately I might even frame it as gathering, there's a couple purposes here to really gather some of the experience, particularly from students and families. It sounds as if there's been some good communication with teachers and staff as well. So, and personally, I would absolutely take the direction of Dr. Garcia and Ms. Sink and Dr. Ryan and the team on that in particular. I think it's also important to have our stakeholders, our constituents, our community feel heard and involved as we, really make an effort to sort of build back a better system than we had even before this, to take some of the lessons learned and some of the things may be somewhat unexpected of what students responded to or how things evolved over time. I mean, to Ms. Sink's point, my child's 3rd grade teacher took that 1 o'clock hour and it was, she would read a story. And that was honestly the time that my child was calmest during the day, was just and most focused. And I would not have predicted that for whatever reason. He just wanted to lie there and hear her voice. And it was really a lovely, lovely thing. And I think, I think we do need to engage our community, our stakeholders around this and sort of aggregate that sense. And I do think we need to hear from, in particular, students and families about some of the expected things. And, what Dr. Garcia said, I think is very important as to how we really reach across the district and figure out how to listen to lots of people and not the ones who will take the immediate survey. And so, it might be different ways of doing it to get the feedback and to really cement the learning and the wisdom that I think is fresh in a lot of people's minds right now. So, and I think, however board members want to be involved, I'm happy to keep talking about it. I actually saw a text tonight on something we put out through my day job, 10 questions on early childhood and providers and childcare. And at this stage, we have about 230 responses from a survey that went live at 10 a.m. this morning to those 10 questions. So let me do board member Bozay and then Dr. Garcia.
Madam President, Dr. Garcia, members of the board, I do think that what Vice President Price said is very important. I think that there are so many topics that to really hone down on what do we want to take away from this. And in my mind, the first thing that comes is more of like an experience feedback for what's worked and what hasn't, and share those gems, share the obstacles, and that can give us some direction. It doesn't need to be, super high level, technical stuff like, was it cumbersome to work on multiple platforms? Sure, they can give that kind of feedback if they want, but I'm really curious how parents / caregivers and students are feeling right now, how they feel coming through this first couple months of this continuous learning. So that's just where I am right now.
Dr. Garcia.
So, several thoughts are coming through my mind. We approached the op-ed for the board that worked on, Board President Noble wrote something, we looked at the word count, we did a teeny bit of edit, sent it out to all the board members for feedback. They're sending it back to me to avoid a rolling quorum, right? You're all giving me back your feedback. I think what I'm interested in terms of how can we improve what we're doing, and what we could do is to, I took the survey, by the way, night away today, and I hate doing surveys, and it was right there and I got it done very quickly. And so I liked the format and it was real easy for me to do. And I think I got it done in 5 minutes and it was like, yay, okay, it's done.
Did you take it in English or in Spanish?
I took it in English and it was super easy to do. And I like kind of a survey where you can just even give it's open-ended. You can give a one sentence or you could give a paragraph if you wanted to. But I think that I want to be cognizant that we're capturing what is distance learning. And I'm talking to Ms. Bozay's point that May is tough generally. If you are a teacher and you're in the month of May, you're like, why did I go into education to begin with? It is a tough time. Kids are tired, teachers are tired, and they're frustrated. And I have heard of, I can't tell you how many people that are not educators and high-level administrators who have children are all flipping out because it is a very stressful time. And so how do you separate out what is pandemic, what is being closed in, what is being in small quarters, what is being a working parent, and then trying to deal with your children and also being in this environment, right? I mean, it's all of those things combined. And yet, how can we do better? What kind of support do you need? And so I think, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if we're back in this situation, you probably are going to be working again, and you're going to have to be managing this environment. What what kind of support do you need to, like what suggestions do you have? What would have made it easier for you?
Right.
Given that you're, trying, even for me, and I don't even have kids at home, it's hard working from home. And many of our parents that are also trying to help their children are also managing working from home. I can't imagine it. And so trying to ferret out how much is really what we're doing and how much is the environment that we're in, right? And so how can we make things better? So we could, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm sure that there are other organizations that are doing this as well. And so we could try to come up with what we think are good surveys. I think we could work with our student board members or other student government groups to help us generate some of those questions and talk to some parents. Sometimes you could do some informal talking to people to help you better build your survey, right? And we could then present it to the board members. You could give me your feedback, and then we could move from there. That's one approach.
May I say, I don't think there's a rush on this. I hear what you're saying about before school is out. I think that that's not reasonable. But I also think that just like the census, there are 4 different ways to take the census, and in terms of the parts of the city where people don't have access to internet or have difficulty with it, we can mail them copies of the survey with a deadline date to please have it back by. But I also think we need to know, what do we know? What do we want to know? And gear it around that. I don't like surveys just to take surveys. I agree with Dr. Garcia on that. So that this can be close to the startup of the school year, or in July when things have cooled down. I don't see the need for haste in this.
Student board member McGinnis, may I interject with something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think that it's paramount when this survey does come out, depending on the timeline. We need to ask what platforms students and teachers used to see what was the most popular, what worked for certain people, what didn't. And I also think that we need to ask how much time was spent on those platforms. And it doesn't need to be phrased necessarily like that, but how much effort, how much work did the students do? How much work did the teachers do? How much work did the parents do? How involved was the process of navigating the platforms and not doing the work? I think that that is something that really needs to be addressed between families and faculty. And I recognize that that's something that will probably be freshest in everyone's mind over the course of the coming month. But if this is a survey that goes out at the beginning of the next school year or the like, it's certainly something that needs to be addressed one way or another. As I said earlier in the presentation, there's certainly a lot of work that goes on finding the assignments and helping siblings or helping children navigating through email and the like. So understanding what platforms were used and how much effort went into using those platforms, effort that could have been spent on work that wasn't, are 2 important points that the board should be aware of.
Okay, other thoughts on this? Well, it would seem, Dr. Garcia, that maybe we can wrestle with this a little bit more and figure out how it can work with the district, the team, the timing, and for some very clear goals about what's worked, what's not worked, where people have banged their head against a Chromebook and the like. And I would just, hope that board members would share thoughts with Dr. Garcia as they come as to, you know, what are the key things that we want to learn from our community, from our stakeholders, on this topic, on this distance learning and this collective experience that we've shared. Okay, on advanced planning, there's a CRC meeting on May 13th, an audit committee meeting the following day on May 14th at lunchtime. The CRC meeting is, of course, in the evening. And then it looks like we will be together again on the 14th for a finance committee study session. And Dr. Garcia, we are expecting that there will be enough ready at that time next week for us to do a finance committee finance study session on the finance subcommittee. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, we do. And depending on the complexity of the information being shared, you know, it's very difficult because we have to build a budget knowing that there's going to be a special session. We've got to build a budget knowing that we're getting stimulus funding, but we don't have it yet. We've got to build a budget knowing that we're going to get federal impact aid, the credit not being taken, but not have the money yet. So we're going to have to build a budget that's going to have cuts in it that hopefully we can backfill and not lose them all with what happens at the special session. So it's going to be more complex than usual. So I don't know, my team and I may actually even be working this weekend. It's today we've been working on it for quite some time now. I may be doing individual or 2 board members at a time board review. We typically don't do board review. That was a process, Board Member Bose and Board Member Gonzalez, that we used to do all the time, which we found not really necessary, but we may need to do that and offer it to board members. It's not a requirement, but before probably Wednesday or Thursday morning in advance of the study session. It just depends when we're done with this presentation. So I will keep you all posted.
Thank you for that. And we appreciate the hard work. I know this is in what is an incredibly complex and difficult system to do budget planning. We're now taking it to a new level with the impact aid and uncertainty around the economy and the hole that seems to be opening up. Okay, anything else on advanced planning? Thank you all very much. Special thanks to the student board members for being with us. We will miss you. Please do stay in touch.
We're gonna miss you too. This was fun. Thank you so much for absolutely everything you've done for us.
Yeah.
This has been an absolutely phenomenal experience. Please let me know if there's anything else I can help with, from surveys to just calling in and around. I have loved every moment of this. Thank you for the privilege and responsibility of working with the school board. It has been excellent.
Well, good. Maybe we can even get you to orient our next set of student board members and what you've learned over 2 years of you know, dealing with this or something. But I hope we have contact information for you going forward. And yeah, we will take you up on that, I'm sure.
Lovely.
Okay, thank you all very much. We are adjourned. See you next week.
Bye, guys.